Is Minnesota assistant coach Micah Nory the guy that can take the Knicks to the promised land? Let's get Jonathan Macri on of Knicks Film School so we can talk about, I guess, the third coach the Knicks have interviewed for the head coaching job. J Mac, what's going on?
What's going on, Brandon? Yeah, it's like they're taking their sweet time,
Yeah.
but they're the only job in the NBA that's open at the moment. So I guess there's no huge issue with that. Although the draft is coming up tomorrow, you would have thought maybe when they fired Tibbs, they'd want to have someone in this spot by the time the draft got here. Apparently, it's not that important to them.
All right, so we got Taylor Jenkins, Mike Brown, and now Micah Nory. He's been an assistant with the T Wolves, Raptors, Kings, Nuggets, Pistons. Where would you rank Nory in this group of three coaches in terms of the chance of getting the job and best fit for the job?
I would have two different answers for those two questions. In terms of chances of getting the job, just because they interviewed him after Taylor Jenkins and Mike Brown, I would put him third on the list. In theory, because they interviewed Jenkins and Brown first, they were more interested in them. Plus, we've talked a lot about how it just makes a little bit more sense. Veteran team, a lot of expectations. Hire someone who has been a head coach before. That said, the second question you asked, in terms of best fit for the job, the connection with Karl Anthony Towns is really, really important here because, if there's one piece on this Knicks roster that you might want to consider, not the most volatile, but the most high ceiling, low floor in terms of what you could get out of him, I think it's Karl Anthony Towns. So if Nori has a very clear vision for how to get the most out of Towns in this offense in particular, something that I don't know that we saw last year, I wouldn't be surprised if his name sticks around in the rumor for this job.
All right. Well, do you think that the Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton injuries can kind of affect who they're going to hire in terms of what that coach's playing style and scheme is, since these two dudes are going to be out next season and it looks like the East is wide open?
I think before the Halliburton, and even if you want to go back as say before the Tatum injury, I think that there was already going to be pressure on whoever the head coach was going to be this year to, at the very least, take this team to the finals. So I don't think that that expectation has changed. What I will say is, especially in light of the Halliburton injury, obviously the Pacers have taken down the Knicks in two straight postseasons here. I do think the risk tolerance may have gone down a bit. And the notion that, hey, there's probably only going to be one team, look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, that's going to be a major impediment standing in our way. I wonder if they don't err ever so slightly on the side of a safer head coach. Again, that would seem to lean towards someone who has done the job before. But again, if someone like a Nori or maybe even assistant they haven't interviewed yet or it hasn't come out yet that they've interviewed really blows them away, you could just as easily go the other way and say, hey, this is a perfect sort of environment for a first time head coach to learn in because there aren't those powerhouses that he's going to have to get through. So I honestly could see this going either way.
All right, so you can go with the first time head coach that brings some new juice, new life, new energy, fresh ideas, or you could go with the proven guys like a Mike Malone. There's a lot of Knicks fans out there that when I read the comments under the announcement that they interviewed Nori, everyone's like, why haven't they interviewed Mike Malone yet? So are you surprised that they haven't brought in and interviewed Mike Malone?
I'm not, and I'm going to steal a line that my colleague Benji Ritholtz said when Mike Malone was fired by Denver, and this was long before Thibodeau was out of a job, where we were talking about, hey, if they end up letting go of Thibodeau, maybe Malone's the guy. And Benji said, you don't fire Tom Thibodeau to hire Tom Thibodeau. I don't know that there are two coaches, whether coaching today or coaches who have coached in the league recently, that are more similar than Mike Malone and Tom Thibodeau in terms of their approach, in terms of how they allocate minutes, how they go about, using their starting lineup, certainly. And I think maybe the most pivotal thing here, and the reason why I'm not surprised that Malone hasn't gotten an interview, is he had a very rocky relationship with the front office in Denver. And I would say far more than any X's and O's related things, The reason Tom Thibodeau doesn't have a job today is because things between him and certain members of the front office in New York just broke down beyond irreparable degree. So that's why I don't think they want a repeat of that situation, with their next head coach. So no, I'm not surprised that Malone hasn't gotten an interview.
Yeah, and that makes sense. You bring in a first-time head coach to this roster, front office can have more say in how they want things to be ran because it's like, hey, you're walking into a situation, not you built a situation. So
Yeah.
I can see, I definitely see that. Real quick, when do you think the Knicks are actually going to wrap this thing up and hire their guy?
When does the season start? October 22nd, 23rd? No, I mean, free agency, begins on June 30th. They are, going to have some discussions pretty early on with Mikal Bridges, I would assume, in regards to his extension. Mitchell Robinson is up for an extension. So even if they don't go about swinging, some sort of significant trade, they're also gonna have the mid-level exception probably to use. There are some big decisions that need to be made here. So I would assume, this front office has enough faith in the core of the roster here that they feel like, hey, regardless of who we hire as head coach, this is going to be our core moving forward. That said, before some of those other smaller decisions have to get made, once we get into free agency. So, best guess, can I say maybe right after the weekend, before, like June 29th, something like that. I'll put a date on it. June 29th. How about that?
All right, I'll take that. It's almost like they're telling this core that this is your team. It's like whoever we bring in, it's like
Well,
you guide this coach. You not so much tell the coach how to run plays or what to call or whatnot, but it's like you guys have been here, you guys have played together, had success together. Whoever it is that we bring in is a complementary piece to the players.
I think, I'm not saying that the Tom Thibodeau doesn't have a job because of the players, but I think the fact that they moved on from Tibbs and they seem to be sticking with, again, those kind of core guys, Towns, Bridges, obviously Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, them. I think it says, all right, we believe in you. Now make it so that our faith in you is going to be rewarded. So from that perspective, it'll be interesting to see how they respond, almost regardless of who the head coach ends up being.
Either way, someone could be walking into the perfect situation when it comes to a core roster that's already been put in place and the culture as well. J Mac, appreciate you hopping on, man.
Thanks as always for having me.